I did the Yellow House, so we're both prepared from working with artist communities to do our Yellow House in Afghanistan. That's the Yellow House which we did, and it was very much not just inspired by Vincent van Gogh's idea to have a place. Vincent only had one taker for his Yellow House, which was Paul Gauguin, but between them they invented modern art. They liberated art from having to look like a photograph. There's the Yellow House, but we're mainly inspired by William Morris's Red House, which was the arts and crafts movement with Daniel Gabriel Rossetti and all those great, they call them pre-Raphaelites, arts and crafts movement. So the idea was to make every room beautiful and have it like walking into a place which was just being like inside the mind of an artist. There's my mate Martin at the Yellow House and doing his three-dimensional Magritte on the walls. And Antoinette Starkovich, one of the great artists, women artists of the Yellow House, and she's next to it. And we're featured Magritte because Martin came back from England with a whole series of beautiful Magritte lithographs. And his mother did the borders around them when we framed them. And there I am, a bad boy with Johnny Lewis. I remember that night at the Yellow House we did theatre as well as everything else. And I was a crocodile in Albie Thomas's Ubu play. Then I was a fox in The Little Prince. Then I went upstairs and had to become the puppeteer. And kept changing my makeup. And I ran my hands over my face. And I became this horrible werewolf-like creature. Thought I could get it off. But we'd run out of remover. And I was driving a Sir George cab, so I ran down, jumped in my cab, I got to the bottom of Earlwood Hill, really steep hill, ran out of fuel. And so I got out in this strange clothing, and it was, I think, a Saturday night, people had been to the horror movies at the drive-in, girls went past, screaming, they thought they saw the living dead walking up the hill. And I got to John Howard's service station, which was at Earlwood. And there was a young John Howard there at the desk, and I said, hey, I need a can of fuel. He said, oh, take it. You don't have to pay for it, just go. And so I got back on the road. That's my wonderful mother, Bohemian. Mum used to make beautiful sculptures of herself. So I'd come home from school and Mum would be topless and sculpting herself in the mirror. And she'd say, okay, take your friends out from the football team, George, and just make yourself afternoon tea, I haven't got time. So I was lucky to grow up with a wonderful Bohemian mother, and Mum came in and she did the Magritte boots and many of the works at the Yellow House. She was part of the Yellow House as well. How lucky was I to have a great creative mother. There's the stone room at the Yellow House. Mum did the stone Bible and the fruit and everything for the table and a few other things for the stone room. She had a stone dove hanging from a bit of string, but one of the hippies bumped into it and smashed his head on it, and he was tripping, so he destroyed it. And there's my darling sister Pamela and Ross, and they came in and modelled for me at the Yellow House. They played a couple of like punters coming in and being shocked by what we'd done. At some of the Yellow House. Beautiful, we worked on every square inch of the place was painted and created. It's my mate Julie in the mine, and so once I finished doing the puppet theatre and creating the walls of the Yellow House, I became a clown and started doing my puppet theatres. I'm still a clown. There's Moth in the puppet theatre. She was a great Elizabethan actress, and she switched. At the Yellow House, we not only did puppet shows and things, we did Ian Esco's Theatre of the Absurd, we did Jean Genet, we introduced a lot of new kinds of theatre to Australia which hadn't been seen in this country before. And that's the letter from Mother Teresa. When the Yellow House was finished, we were actually, we had this avalanche of hippies, another kind of barbarian, who'd just come in and see the art. They didn't know anything about art history, and they'd say, shit man, what were you on? And so I was on Matisse, I was on Jean Art, and they wouldn't get it. So there was one night where we had every kind of crazy. We had Fred Robertson, who ran a flying saucer cult, and Martin and I just walked away from it, and I remember doing the puppet shows when I was young. And so I wrote to Mother Teresa and I said, this art business is no good, Mother Teresa. We're not succeeding with anything. I think I should go back to university and become a doctor or something and come and help you in Calcutta. And I got this beautiful little letter back. It's in her own handwriting. And she said, George, use the talents which God's given you as an artist. And if you do that, you'll be a happy old man. And that's what I've done. I've turned my art into working for humanity. It's never been about decoration. It's never been about flat wall furniture. I don't have a dealer. I'm not part of the Australian art market. There's Helen with her Christmas pudding in the Yellow House, thinking of Norman Lindsay and his wonderful magic pudding. Helen smuggles a rum, what do you call it, Helen? A pudding, a proper Christmas pudding into Afghanistan every year. We've had about the last 8 Christmases at the Yellow House, and sets fire to it because it's got the rum in it, and we have our little Christmas dinner in the Yellow House garden. That's our transvestite chef, and little Ashid, and who's a small person, and our cook's assistant, Saludin. We're friends with the Taliban. The whole idea, the Pakistani Taliban are really bad. They're linked with the CIA and Pakistani intelligence, but our experience of the Taliban in Afghanistan is, particularly Maulana Haqqani, they've put an umbrella of protection over the Yellow House, and now he's got 7 sons. I think 4 of them come to the Yellow House for workshops, and none of them have decided to join the Taliban. One wants to study to be a doctor, another one an engineer, and Dad doesn't mind. These are our ice cream boys. We've found our way of getting movies out to the community is selling them with the ice cream carts. And then the boys decided they had to make their own movie, which they've now done. And in that, we've got the Gangster Boys, Steel and the Gangsters. So, love you to, I think it was on here last night, Snow Monkey. But the thing that makes it work is the Gangster Boys, Steel, and that's his brother Bulldog. There's Steel. There they are with our masks. And the great thing about Snow Monkey, it has a love story. So you start to think that Steel is like a monster, and then suddenly you discover he's got this beautiful girlfriend, Shazia, and they're very much in love. There they are. Steel takes Shazia to this huge mansion owned by the Minister of Customs. You can imagine why he's the richest man in an opium country. Minister for Customs has got a giant mansion. And Steel turns to Shazia in the movie and says, this is going to be yours someday, Shazia. She says, but how will you get that? And he says, don't worry, I've got my ways. And that's the boys making their film. They made, and there's little Zabi. He's become a cameraman. There's not enough time to tell you his story, but he was captured by ISIS and came back to us. And there they are. See the blank billboard, the silver one? When we first came to Jalalabad, all the billboards were empty and blank like that. And we started putting up our film posters, and now you'll find, like the one behind it, people thought that you couldn't have the human figure on a board. There's now billboards, because we broke that ground, telling women where they can go to refuges if they want to get away from bad relationships or violent relationships. And there's even billboards telling young girls that they don't have to be forced into marriage. And the Yellow House has helped bring that about. So this is art in place of war. You could have 100,000 soldiers pointing guns at the community in Jalalabad telling them they have to change, and they just pull out more guns. But the Yellow House has changed them through love. There's the boys with their poster, Terribly Proud, my little monkey on Saladin's neck. For me, to go into a place like Afghanistan and become a Pashtun language filmmaker and be in the movies, that to me is modern conceptual art. That's what Beuys said when he talked about social sculpture.